The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, dotted with distant stars and the faint glow of nebulae. Inside the research station Orion's Edge, floating near the edge of human-controlled territory, a team of scientists worked tirelessly. Their mission: to develop something that could tip the balance of power in humanity's favor against the relentless alien forces known only as the Invaders. Dr. Ray, a seasoned physicist with graying hair and sharp eyes, adjusted his glasses as he stared at the holographic display in front of him. Numbers and equations flickered rapidly, but one value remained constant, a stable energy reading unlike anything ever recorded. "It's holding," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Beside him, Lieutenant Maya, a young but brilliant engineer, clenched her fists. "If this works, we won't just level the playing field, we'll rewrite the rules." The experiment was simple in theory, impossible in practice, until now. For decades, faster-than-light travel had been humanity's greatest achievement, but it required massive gates and enormous energy costs. What if a ship could generate its own warp field? No gates, no delays, just instant, unpredictable movement. The lab hummed as the prototype device, no larger than a cargo crate, pulsed with a faint blue light. Inside, an artificial singularity, a controlled black hole, was being manipulated by magnetic fields. If they could sustain it, they could create a localized warp bubble. "Initiate Phase 2, Dr. Ray ordered. Maya input the commands, her fingers flying over the console. The device's hum grew louder, the blue light intensifying. Then, without warning, the space around the device twisted. For a fraction of a second, it vanished, only to reappear 3 meters away. Silence. Then, cheers. Dr. Ray exhaled sharply. "We just bent space." Maya grinned. The invaders won't know what hit them. But their celebration was short-lived. Alarms blared as the station's sensors detected an incoming signal, an encrypted transmission from deep within invader territory. The screen flickered to life, revealing a distorted figure, its features obscured by static. A cold, mechanical voice spoke. "Humanity. You have something that belongs to us." Dr. Ray's blood ran cold. They had been discovered. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the research team in stunned silence. The invaders knew. Somehow, they had detected the experiment. Lieutenant Maya was the first to move, her fingers flying over the console as she traced the signal's origin. "It was a deep space relay," she said, her voice tight. "They don't know our exact location, yet." Dr. Ray wiped sweat from his brow. "We need to move fast. If they get their hands on this tech, the war is over." The prototype had worked, sort of. The warp jump was unstable, unpredictable. But it was proof. Humanity could break the rules of physics, and that made them dangerous. 3 days later, aboard the UEF battleship Dauntless. Admiral Cole, a grizzled veteran with scars from a dozen battles, stood on the command deck, arms crossed. In front of him, Dr. Ray and Lieutenant Maya stood at attention, the prototype schematics glowing on the holodeck between them. "You're telling me," Cole growled, "that this little box can make a ship jump without a gate?" "Yes, sir," Maya confirmed. "But we need more tests. Right now, it's unstable." "I heard." Cole's eyes narrowed. "The invaders are mobilizing. Scouts report their fleets are shifting toward the outer colonies. They're looking for you." Dr. Ray swallowed hard. "Then we don't have time for more tests. We have to deploy it." Cole exhaled sharply. "Fine. But we're not putting it on a ship first." He tapped a command into the holodeck, and a massive space station appeared, Outpost Sigma, a derelict military facility near the front lines. "We rig the outpost. If the invaders attack, we hit them with a surprise." Maya's eyes widened. "You want to use it as a bomb?" "I want to see what it can do," Cole corrected. "If it works, we'll know." If it doesn't, he shrugged. Then it's just another lost outpost. 24 hours later, Outpost Sigma. The station was old, its corridors dim and silent. Only a skeleton crew remained, prepping the prototype for its first real test. Maya adjusted the device's stabilizers, her hands steady despite the tension in the air. If we overload the containment field, the singularity will expand uncontrollably, she explained to the techs. Theoretically, it'll warp space in a 50-kilometer radius. Theoretically, one of the crew muttered. Dr. Ray gave a grim smile. Science is all about bold experiments. A proximity alarm blared. On the scanners, 3 invader destroyers emerged from warp, their jagged black hulls blotting out the stars. They found us, Maya whispered. The comm crackled. Admiral Cole's voice was calm. Detonate on my mark. The invader ships opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked toward the outpost, shaking the station. Mark. Maya activated the overload sequence. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, space itself rippled. The invader ships shuddered as if caught in an invisible current. Hulls twisted, weapons misfired, and then silence. Where the destroyers had been, there was only empty space. No debris. No wreckage. Just, gone. Back on the Dauntless, the bridge crew stared at the scanners in disbelief. Cole allowed himself a rare smirk. Well. That changes things. The silence on the Dauntless bridge stretched for 3 full seconds before erupting into controlled chaos. Technicians scrambled to verify sensor data, while tactical officers whispered in hushed, disbelieving tones. Admiral Cole kept his eyes locked on the view screen. Where 3 invader destroyers had been moments before, there was now only undisturbed starscape. Confirmed, said the sensor officer, voice cracking slightly. No debris, no residual energy signatures. The enemy vessels have been completely erased from local spacetime. Lieutenant Maya, watching the feed from the research lab, let out a slow breath. It worked. It actually worked. Dr. Ray, standing beside her, adjusted his glasses with trembling fingers. The gravitational distortion was more extreme than our models predicted. The warp collapse didn't just destroy them, it unmade them. Cole turned away from the screen, his expression unreadable. How long before we can scale this? Deep within invader territory, the Black Citadel. The chamber was dark, lit only by the pale glow of floating holograms, each one displaying the same impossible event: human outpost, energy surge, then nothing. The destroyers hadn't been defeated. They had been erased. At the center of the room, the Supreme Overseer, a towering figure clad in biomechanical armor, clenched a clawed fist. The holograms flickered out. This, it hissed, is unacceptable. A subordinate, smaller but no less fearsome, bowed its head. Their science should not have advanced this far. Our infiltrators assured us their research was decades away from. Clearly, they were wrong. The Overseer's voice was venomous. Deploy the Harbinger. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. But, my lord, the Harbinger was meant for their homeworld. If we use it now, then humanity will learn true despair before they die. Aboard the UEF Dauntless, 48 hours later. The prototype had a name now, Project Fullbreaker. Maya stood in the Dauntless engineering bay, overseeing the installation of a scaled-up version of the device into the ship's core. Around her, technicians welded reinforced containment chambers while physicists argued over power thresholds. Admiral Cole approached, hands behind his back. How soon? 2 more days, Maya said, wiping grease from her forehead. The Dauntless will be the first warship capable of independent warp jumps, no gates, no delays. But we still don't know the long-term strain on the hull. Cole grunted. The invaders won't give us 2 days. As if summoned by his words, the battle station's alarm blared. Contact. Multiple inbound signatures, reading 12, no, 15 capital ships. They're bypassing the outer defenses. Maya and Cole exchanged a glance. They're not here for a fight, Cole realized. They're here to stop us. The Battle of Sigma Outpost, First Strike. The invader fleet arrived like a storm, sleek, jagged vessels emerging from warp in perfect formation. But they didn't attack immediately. Instead, a single ship, larger and more menacing than the rest, detached from the group. New contact, the sensor officer shouted. Massive energy spike, it's some kind of. Space rippled. A beam of black and crimson energy lanced from the invader flagship, striking the ruins of Outpost Sigma. Where it hit, reality itself seemed to tear. The station didn't explode, it unraveled, metal and light stretching into impossible fractals before vanishing into a singularity. Silence. Then. Gravitational wave detected. It's pulling us in. The Dauntless shuddered as the artificial black hole's event horizon expanded. Alarms wailed as the ship's thrusters strained against the pull. Cole gripped the command chair. Evasive maneuvers. Now. Maya's mind raced. The fold-breaker prototype isn't ready, but if we don't jump, we're dead. She made a decision. Override the safeties, she yelled into her comm, initiate emergency warp. The Dauntless screamed. Metal groaned as the ship's frame twisted under forces it was never meant to endure. The emergency warp had activated, but not cleanly, not smoothly. The fold-breaker prototype, untested at this scale, had ripped the battleship through space in a violent, uncontrolled surge. Lieutenant Maya clung to a console as the artificial gravity flickered. Around her, sparks erupted from overloaded systems. The lights died, then flared back to life in an eerie crimson as emergency power engaged. Report. Admiral Cole bellowed over the chaos. Engines offline. Navigation systems rebooting, an officer shouted. But, sir, the invader fleet, they're gone. Maya pulled herself up, heart pounding. The view screen stabilized, revealing nothing. No stars. No planets. Just an endless void, darker than deep space, broken only by faint, swirling tendrils of violet light. Where the hell are we? Cole muttered. Dr. Ray stumbled onto the bridge, his face pale. Not where. When. He pointed at the sensors. The fold breaker didn't just jump us through space, it jumped us outside of normal spacetime. We're in the warp corridor's shadow dimension. Maya's blood ran cold. You're saying we're between reality? Before Ray could answer, the ship shuddered again, but this time, not from internal damage. Something outside had scraped against the hull. Contact, the sensor officer yelled. Something's out there. The view screen flickered, its image distorting. For a split second, they saw it, a vast, jagged shape, darker than the void around it, moving like a shark through ink. Then it vanished. Cole's grip on his command chair tightened. That wasn't one of theirs. Maya checked the foldbreaker's core readings. The prototype's destabilizing. If we don't jump back soon, we might not have a ship left to jump with. Ray adjusted his glasses, hands shaking. There's a bigger problem. That thing out there? It's not just in here with us. It's following us. Invader Command, the Black Citadel. The Supreme Overseer watched as the Harbinger's destruction wave faded. Sigma Outpost was gone. The human battleship had vanished, but not to escape. They entered the rift, a subordinate confirmed. The Overseer's mandibles twitched in what might have been amusement. Then they are already dead. Nothing survives the Void-born. Aboard the Dauntless, between realities. The crew worked frantically, rerouting power, stabilizing systems. But the strange entity, whatever it was, kept circling. Closer now. Can we fight it? Cole demanded. Maya checked the weapons array. Our guns don't even register a target. It's like it's not fully here. Ray exhaled sharply. Because it isn't. It's a void-born, a predator that exists between dimensions. The invaders must have known about them. That's why they never used uncontrolled warp tech. Cole's jaw set. So we led them right to us. A deep, resonant thud echoed through the ship. The lights flickered again. It's testing the hull, an engineer shouted. Maya's fingers flew over the fold breaker controls. We have one shot. I can force a return jump, but it's going to be rough. Do it, Cole ordered. The ship groaned as the fold breaker activated again. Space twisted. And then shattered. Reality, somewhere else. The Dauntless slammed back into normal space with the force of a meteor strike. Alarms blared as systems struggled to compensate. Location. Cole barked. The navigator stared at his screen in disbelief. Sir, we're in the Proxima system. But, that's 20 light-years from Sigma Outpost. Maya let out a shaky laugh. It worked. We're alive. Then the sensor panel beeped. New contact, the officer said slowly. It's the invader fleet. But, sir, they're not attacking. They're retreating. On the view screen, the monstrous Harbinger ship and its escorts were pulling back, warping away in haste. Cole frowned. They had us. Why run? Ray's face went pale. Because they saw it too. Maya understood instantly. The Void-born. They think it's with us. Silence fell over the bridge. Cole slowly sat back in his chair. Then we just got a new weapon. And the invaders are terrified of it. The Dauntless drifted in the eerie quiet of the Proxima system, its hull still humming with residual energy from the uncontrolled jump. The crew moved in tense silence, repairing what they could, but the mood had shifted. They had survived the impossible, and now, they carried something far more dangerous than any weapon. Lieutenant Maya stared at the Foldbreaker's core readouts, her fingers tracing the jagged energy spikes. The prototype's damaged, she said quietly. But not beyond repair. Dr. Ray adjusted his cracked glasses, his voice low. It's not just the device we need to worry about. That thing, the Void-born, it didn't just let us go. It followed us. Admiral Cole stood at the view screen, watching the last of the invader fleet vanish into warp. They're scared. That's why they ran. He turned, his gaze sharp. But fear makes enemies desperate. They'll hit us harder next time. Maya swallowed. And if they think we've weaponized the Void-born, they might decide wiping us out is worth the risk. Invader Command, the Black Citadel. The Supreme Overseer's chamber was in turmoil. Holograms flickered with images of the Dauntless emerging from the rift, of the Void-born's shadow just beyond. The humans have done what we never dared, a subordinate hissed. They've lured the Void-born into our reality. The Overseer's claws flexed. Then we must act before they learn to control it. Prepare the Omega Protocol. A ripple of shock passed through the room. But, my lord, Omega will collapse every warp lane in their territory. Our own forces will be stranded. And their worlds will burn, the Overseer finished coldly. A small price to pay to ensure they never wield this power. Aboard the UEF Dauntless, 12 hours later. The Foldbreaker prototype hummed back to life, its containment field stabilizing under Maya's careful adjustments. Around her, engineers worked in shifts, reinforcing the Dauntless hull, preparing for what came next. Dr. Ray approached, holding a data pad. I've analyzed the jump logs. Every time we activate the Foldbreaker, it leaves a trace. Like a scent. That's how the Void-born found us. Maya's stomach dropped. You're saying if we use it again, it'll follow. And next time, it might not just watch. Before she could respond, alarms blared. Admiral. Long-range scanners are picking up massive energy surges across multiple systems. Invader warp gates are overloading. Cole's face darkened. They're cutting off our supply lines. Stranding our fleets. Maya pulled up the tactical display, and froze. The pattern was unmistakable. They're not just isolating us. They're hurting us. Every collapsed lane funnels our ships toward Earth. The realization hit like a physical blow. They're going to destroy our homeworld, Cole said softly. The void between spaces. The void-born drifted, its formless mass shifting in the dark. It had tasted the humans' trail, their fear, their desperation, the strange energy they carried. It wanted more. And it was patient. Soon, they would jump again. And it would be waiting. Aboard the Dauntless, the choice. Cole stood before his officers, his voice steady. We have one advantage left. The invaders think we control the Void-born. We don't. But we can use that fear. Maya frowned. You want to bluff? No. Cole's gaze was iron. I want to win. We take the fold breaker to Earth. Let them come. Let them bring their harbinger. And when they do, he tapped the core schematics. We lure the Void-born right into their fleet. Ray paled. That's suicide. If the Void-born reaches Earth, then we'll have bigger problems than the invaders, Cole admitted. But it's the only play we've got. Silence. Maya took a deep breath. Then let's make sure we're the ones who decide where it strikes. The Dauntless hurtled toward Earth at maximum burn, its engine screaming under the strain. Behind them, the invader armada followed, a swarm of blackened warships, their weapons charging for the killing blow. Ahead, the blue-green glow of humanity's homeworld grew larger on the view screen. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge, his hands clenched behind his back. Time to intercept? 8 minutes, the navigator replied. The invaders will be in firing range in 6. Cole nodded. Then we make our stand here. The trap. Lieutenant Maya worked furiously in the engineering bay, her fingers flying over the foldbreaker's controls. The device pulsed erratically, its containment fields flickering. It's not stable, Dr. Ray warned, watching the energy readings spike. If we activate it now. We don't have a choice, Maya interrupted. This is the only way. The plan was simple in theory. Lure the invaders into Earth's orbit. Trigger the fold breaker at the last second, creating a warp rift. Let the Void-born do the rest. In practice, it was a suicide mission. The invaders move. The Harbinger, the massive flagship of the invader fleet, emerged from warp directly behind the Dauntless. Its weapon systems hummed to life, a deep, resonant vibration that shook the human ship to its core. They're locking onto us, the tactical officer shouted. Cole didn't flinch. Hold course. Let them get closer. The Dauntless shuddered as the first plasma volley grazed its shields. Alarms blared. Shields at 40%. Now, Maya. Cole barked into the comm. The fold breaker activates. Maya slammed her palm onto the activation switch. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, space itself ripped open. A swirling vortex of black and violet energy erupted behind the Dauntless, its gravitational pull yanking the ship backward. The invader fleet, caught off guard, scrambled to evade, but it was too late. The Void-born emerged. It was enormous, a shapeless, shifting mass of darkness, tendrils lashing out like whips. The nearest invader ships were swallowed instantly, their hulls crumpling like paper in a fist. The Harbinger fired its superweapon, a beam of black energy meant to unravel matter itself, but the Void-born absorbed it, growing larger, hungrier. Earth's fate. The Dauntless, caught in the gravitational wake, strained against the rift. "We're being pulled in," the helmsman screamed. Cole grabbed the comm. "Maya, shut it down." She tried. But the fold breaker was beyond control. Dr. Ray stared at the readings in horror. "It's not just a rift, it's a black hole. The Void-born is anchoring itself to our reality." Earth's defense fleet, scrambling to respond, fired everything they had, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the creature. The invaders, realizing their mistake, tried to flee. The Void-born followed. The sacrifice. Cole made the call. "All ships, evacuate Earth's orbit. Now." Maya understood. There was only one way to stop this. She rerouted the Dauntless power core directly into the fold breaker. "We overload it," she said, her voice steady. "We blow the rift closed." Ray met her eyes, and nodded. The Dauntless turned, engines flaring, and plunged into the heart of the vortex. For a split second, the Void-born screamed, a sound that shattered sensors across the system. Then, silence. The rift collapsed. The Void-born vanished. The invader fleet, what remained of it, drifted lifelessly. Earth stood untouched. Epilogue, 1 month later. The war wasn't over. But the tide had turned. In the ruins of the Black Citadel, the last Supreme Overseer stared at the reports. The humans had sacrificed their own to stop the Void-born. They had turned their greatest weapon into their greatest shield. And now, the invaders had no answer. On Earth, in a quiet memorial, a single plaque was erected. "For those who folded space so we could survive." Maya, standing before it, allowed herself one tear. Then she turned back to the stars.